Welcome to... Greetings, fellow members of the Esoteric Order of Gamers, and welcome to another Action Points episode. It's Action Points for the month of May 2019, and it's another recap of the month's worth of tabletop gaming here at the Esoteric Order of Gamers studio. Now, if you've never watched an Action Points episode before, my name is Peter. I'm also known as Universal Head, and I run a website called the Esoteric Order of Gamers, which is about all things tabletop gaming, and especially very thematic and imaginative tabletop games. Often those with miniatures, not always those with miniatures, but we cover quite a lot of ground, and in these episodes I like to talk about what I've been doing during the past month, what I've been painting, what games I've been playing, and also what's going on in the games industry. So without further ado, let's get started. And the first thing you might notice is a huge amount of miniatures on the table before me. And I've painted quite a lot this week. My partner has been away on some business trips, and while she's been travelling around, I've been sitting at home painting miniatures and getting some of the backlog done. I did a 4-part series on painting Hellboy, the board game by Mantic Games. And you can see all of it here in front of me, all painted, all done. It's a fantastic game. I played it a few times and really enjoyed it. And it was pretty quick and easy to paint. So if you want some tips and advice on how to paint Hellboy, check out those videos. Over here we've got Batman. Yes, Batman Gotham City Chronicles by Monolith arrived this month, and I got straight into painting it. And it's very easy to paint. The miniatures are not particularly detailed. You can churn them out pretty quickly. So I've got quite a few of those painted here. I've done enough for the first 3 scenarios, and I'm powering through the rest of them. It's pretty easy to paint. In the meantime, halfway through Hellboy, I thought, I need a bit of a change. So I went over to Big Trouble in Little China and managed to paint all the miniatures from that set. Again, relatively simple miniatures, pretty easy to paint. It didn't take too long, so got that one done. I also went over to The Others, and I've been going through the expansions for The Others slowly over a long period of time, so I whipped out another one of those. I think this one's Gluttony, and that was just a few figures. And because they're mostly washes, very, very easy to paint. Also, yes, unbelievable. It's amazing that I'm not sort of all like this. But I've been very careful with my posture, getting up and taking lots of breaks and trying to do neck exercises, etc., and go to the physio. So things are pretty good in that department. I also did 2 Blood Bowl teams. So I've got the human team and the orc team from the core set of the latest version of Blood Bowl. Really wanted to finish those off, even though I've got painted miniatures from earlier sets of Blood Bowl. Just wanted to get those done. So they were great. And finally, about a week ago, I realised I had a few unpainted Star Wars Imperial Assault figures. So I finished those off. It was mostly the figures from Heart of Empire, plus a few specials. So all of the Imperial Assault figures I own are now painted. And of course, as soon as I've finished those, I got online and bought 2 more figures. Obi-Wan, because I didn't have him, and the guy in the Bantha, which just looks a large figure. It looks quite good. But anyway, Imperial Assault is done for the moment, which is fantastic. So, as you can see, lots of painting done this month. It's very satisfying to get them done, so get in there and do some painting. And I hear people say, I can't do it, it's too hard, or, my results are terrible. Don't think like that. Really, painting is very easy to do once you get a few basic techniques under your belt and a little bit of practice. It's a lot of fun, and you can get great results very easily. You don't have to do this very, very fine, perfect display kind of work. These are gaming pieces, so paint them up quick, make them look good from a distance, and get them on the table. Okay, it's been an interesting month in games. Another game that I got was Aliens vs Predator, or AVP, The Hunt Begins. Out of print now, unfortunately. Protos Games no longer make it. But it does have some very nice miniatures, and it's a nice little package. It's a corridor dungeon crawler sci-fi type game, but you have, of course, the aliens, the marines, and the predators, so 3 very different types of forces fighting together in starship corridors or industrial sci-fi corridors. Looks really good. I've just started painting the miniatures for those, but they're quite detailed miniatures, so they take a little bit longer to do. Another one I got a chance to play was Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth by Fantasy Flight, and I thought it was quite good. It's very much like Mansions of Madness. It's an app-driven game, of course. The miniatures are quite nice, though there's a limited range in the core set. Of course, there will be gazillions of expansions, I'm sure, if it goes well for Fantasy Flight. I thought it was good. I was just a little bit underwhelmed. I will play it when it comes out and enjoy it as a campaign. That's good. But I'm beginning to go off this whole idea of the app-driven games. I do feel like there's a lot of focus on the screen and not so much on the game. Like you're being held by the hand a little bit. So I wasn't highly impressed, but you know, if you like those kind of app-driven games and you like a bit of adventuring in Middle-earth, then check that one out. I also got this small game, Seven Ronin by Grey Fox Games. It's a fun little game and it's really good value. I got this for $37 NZ, which is really cheap, amazingly cheap really for any type of game. And it's playing out the Seven Samurai scenario, or the Hollywood version, of course, the Magnificent Seven, where you're protecting a village with your samurai from bandits. And there's a bit of blind setup. Each player sets up their own forces behind a little screen, then reveals them, then you have lots of special abilities. A lot of gameplay in a tiny box. I recommend it. We also got a couple of other games, Fate of the Elder Gods and Dogs of War. Both games that have been out for a little while, but really enjoyable additions to my collection. Played them both and really enjoyed them. Fate of the Elder Gods is a worker placement game with spells, where you're a cultist trying to bring back your old one. And Dogs of War is an old one by Simon, which is very clever, very overproduced, big miniatures that aren't really necessary, but a really fun little game, and it's backstabby and nasty as well. Oh, and the other thing I got this month is a few more figures for Wrath of Kings by Simon. Talking about Simon, it's a miniature tabletop game that I've done quite a few battle reports for. You can see them on this channel. Go check them out. It has some beautiful miniatures and they have a lot of character. The one thing I love about it is that the factions are very distinctive. They've got a lot of character and really nice miniatures. Unfortunately, however, wasn't supported too well and has now died. But there are miniatures left available, so check them out if you still want to play that game. I got a few more that I hadn't got. There were the second wave of Wrath of Kings figures, and I got a few of those, but they're on the back of the painting queue at the moment because I still haven't finished painting all the miniatures I got in the initial Kickstarter. There were like at least 250. There were lots of them, and they're pretty complex figures, so still working on those. I don't really think I needed more Wrath of Kings figures. Now, as for new releases and new things happening in the industry this month, it's been pretty quiet, really, from the point of view of the kind of games I like anyway. Nothing came out on Kickstarter or released in the mainstream that I was particularly interested in. And in fact, I'm getting a bit down on Kickstarter games. I had some problems there. I backed some terrain by Manor House Workshop, and they seem to have done a runner. We haven't heard from them since November. I'm very disappointed about that one. I think the money may be lost, but fingers crossed. Siege of the Citadel by Modifius is still very late. I think it is coming out. Some people have got the core set, but of course they had to pay for 2 waves of shipping. And in fact, the shipping was double the original quote that was in the campaign, which was very annoying in the end. So still waiting on that one. There's a few others that are late as well, so I'm getting a bit fed up with the lateness of some of the Kickstarters. And also, they put so many miniatures in some of these games that it takes ages to paint them all, and you don't really need them all. So, yeah, I don't know. Unless something really amazing comes up, I don't think I'll be backing any more Kickstarters in the short term. However, I do have quite a few that I've already backed that will be on their way eventually. Joan of Arc is coming soon. Tainted Grail I backed. Reichbusters I backed. So yeah, there's a lot of miniatures on the way to paint. So I thought I'd talk about something a little bit different, and that's 2 games that I'm working on personally as graphic designer. Yes, I do occasionally do the graphic design for board games. You may know Tales of the Arabian Nights I did years ago, and I've done quite a few since then. 2 I'm working on now are Atlantis Rising by Elf Creek Games. I've been working on that for quite a long time and I'm very proud of the results. It's heading towards production. I've almost finished my part in the creation of that game and I hope you'll enjoy it, all those people who backed it on Kickstarter, because it looks like a very impressive game. It's got a beautiful modular board and it's, of course, you're trying to build a cosmic gate to escape Atlantis. before the islands sink and the modular board flips over and goes to flooded section. The artwork is by the very talented Vincent Dutray. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And he has done a beautiful job on the artwork. So looking forward to seeing that game in the flesh, as it were. The other game I'm working on is by Crosscut Games. I worked on their Ninjato, which they did with Z-Man Games, or Z-Man Games, as you call it in the US. And their new one is Empire of the Stars, which is a complete reworking of their old one, Galactic Emperor. I'm really proud of the cover for this one. It's come out really nicely. Jeff Brown is the very clever illustrator who came up with a very bold illustration. And then I went super bold on a logo, so it's really bright, colourful, and in your face, and I hope I can carry that design principle across to the rest of the game. It's going to look fantastic, and I think it's going to play fantastic as well, because Adam West of Crosscut Games always creates great games, and he's a great bloke. So keep an eye on that one. It should be fantastic. Another thing that happened this month was the announcement of Games Workshop's new contrast point paints. I can't say that. I've actually said that about 5 times now. Contrast point. Contrast paints. Whew. Okay, in America, of course, you'd say contrast, but we say contrast, which is a contrast. Anyway, these paints are basically washes with a lot more pigment in them. So the plan is that you do that you spray on a white undercoat, and then you paint on the contrast paints, and you get a shading effect and a bit of a highlight effect because of the light highlight underneath. Coming through in one coat, and they're very much plugging these as being the solution to getting all your unpainted armies painted. The results are interesting. I think some of the ones that I've seen are a bit underwhelming, but some of the results from more experienced painters have been quite impressive. So I think to really churn out those unpainted miniatures, get them done, this could be an interesting solution. There are about 30 paints in the range. They're really getting behind them. So I'm looking forward to getting my hands on a few of those and experimenting with them. And when I do, of course, I will be filming the results and letting you know what I think of them. But that could be a good way to get your unpainted miniatures painted. Of course, the old base coat and wash technique still works really well. So check out my old videos for help on how to do that. Well, folks, that's it for another month. As you can see, it's been mostly about painting miniatures. So I do encourage you to get out there and paint your own miniatures and get that backlog done and plough through them and get them on the tabletop and play some games. I will see you next month. In the meantime, the Esoteric Order of Gamers churns out content for you. I release 2 things a week, and they're not just small pieces of content. They're either videos or they're rule summaries, and those rule summaries take a little time to make. So you're getting 2 pieces of really good content a week. That's 8 things a month. Of course, they're all summed up in the newsletter, so sign up to the newsletter on the website. Go and check out the website, orderofgamers.com. You'll find hundreds of rule summaries for fantastic games. You'll also find all the content the Esoteric Order of Gamers has ever released on the website. And of course, subscribe to this YouTube channel if you wouldn't mind. Make sure you turn on notifications so you find out when a new video is released. There are Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Instagram, there's lots of photos of what I'm gaming with at the time. Lots of places to contact me. And of course on Patreon, patreon.com/esoteric order is where you'll find my Patreon page, and you can chat with me there and sign up to support the Esoteric Order of Gamers and make sure I keep churning out as much stuff as possible that you can enjoy. Phew! That's May! Woohoo! Thanks very much for watching, everybody. I'll see you next month. Bye for now. Good gaming. Now's usually the time where I jump around making silly puns and thanking the people who have backed the Esoteric Order of Gamers this month. But I've been inside painting miniatures, so I haven't really had a chance. So one thing I have done is this afternoon plant these trees on the edge of our property. And so what I'd like to do is something a little bit different and dedicate a tree to each one of the wonderful people who backed me this month. Dennis, this is your tree. Thank you very much for backing the Esoteric Order of Gamers, mate. Good on you. Paul, you upped your pledge this month, and I really appreciate that. That shows me that I'm doing something right and you appreciate what I'm doing. So thank you very much. Good on you, Paul. Hey, Joe, this is your tree. Thanks for the support. I really appreciate it, mate. Good on you. Hope you're enjoying the Esoteric Order of Gamers. Excalibur. Good on you, mate. You always put a like next to everything I post, and it's a nice gesture. I appreciate it. You also upped your pledge this month. Good on you. Here's your tree. Milk Robotics, you're a new pledger this month, and here's your tree. Good on you, and thank you so much for the support. Tony Ryan, you're also a new member of the Esoteric Order of Gamers this month, and here's a tree dedicated to you with thanks. And of course, very, very special thanks to Jeff and Jose, who backed me at night level this month. And you'll be getting very special call-outs when Will is here next. The two of us will give you something special. But thanks so much. Right, I've planted some trees. Now it's time to get inside and do some miniature painting.